All right, so let's talk about Heez Wise. This is the debut collaborative record from Micwise and Heezy Hines, right?
Sure.
If you've been following our reviews and if you've been following Mikewise's work, you would know that Heezy and Mike have worked before.
Hmm.
First time was with first time was with Payback. That was one of the standout tracks from, I should say, a single as well from Dirty Pages.
Yes.
And he was on the track Weaving, which was the final track off of the Unusual Suspects. This is
Yes.
where Mike Wise teamed up with producer Right Track, right? Solid record as well too, right? But yeah, this is I mean, like I said before, this is their first time collaborating together. And it's nothing new with two artists from different countries more or less collaborating and working on a full record together. My favorite album of 2021 was a little record called The Beginning of, where North Carolina rapper slash singer E. Smithy teamed up with a Canadian rapper producer by the name of Shady Beat Yoda, right? And they made a masterful album, in my opinion. I absolutely love it, right? So yeah, I mean, in this pandemic day and age, I should say, collaborations over the seas,
Right.
digitally is nothing new, right?
Yeah. It's
But the thing
yeah,
about it,
post pandemic. Yeah. Hmm.
yeah, post pandemic, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, but for me, it was just again just taking note of Mike Wise's discography. It was him basically just scratching something off of his to-do list, and just right off the gate, right? Well, what I particularly admire about this, right, is that even though Mike is from San Fernando, Trinidad, and Heezy is from New Jersey in the States, right? Yes, their lives were different. Yes, they've experienced things, differently, right? Or I should say, Heezy had experiences that, Mike didn't have, right? And vice versa, right? But I just love the fact that they were able to find this sort of common ground in terms
Yeah.
of the subject matter,
Yeah.
in terms of the lyrics,
Yeah.
I love
There's
that.
one track. There's one track in particular that illustrates that perfectly. It's one of the tracks they released actually.
Right, right, right,
Yeah.
right, right. Exactly, right. Which we're gonna get into, right?
Hmm.
And yeah, they were just able to just find that creative mid ground and they say, yes, yeah, let me just spit some bars, right? But you're drawing from your experiences. I'm gonna draw from mine. But we're just gonna just form together and just make this dynamic super duo drill and just make some great hits out of this, right? And yeah, this is pretty much what we get here with this album, right? So as usual, I'm gonna do a track by track, review of this. Ricardo, you checked it out as well,
Yeah.
so you could just share your thoughts as I go through, this album track by track, right? So kicking things off with proper viewing, right? It opens with a quote from Martin Scorsese's The Irishman, which is one of my favorite movies of the past decade, right? And we get this dramatic jazz and blues fused instrumental, and it's the type of beat that if you're familiar with Mike Wise's work, that's the type of beat that he enjoys flowing over, something that sounds like sounds cinematic, like it comes from some sort of like crime
Yeah.
drama,
He
right?
does. He
He
does that a
loves that.
lot. Yeah. He does that a lot. He'll just straight up like I forget which song it was that um he just straight up had something from Birdman and it's like how it would.
Oh gosh, I can't remember what it was. Was it off a Leave Way? I can't
Yeah.
remember. I think it was
Yeah.
either
One of
from
them. Yeah.
Leave or Dirty Pages. I could be wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. But yeah, speaking of Mike Wise, he kicks things off with his like right now, like like when it comes to him, his signature style is just how intricate his rhyme schemes are. Right, there's the way how he just stacks these rhymes on top of each other. Right, and then when you least expect it, you just move on to another rhyme and just keep stacking that up. Right, and then keep going until his verse ends. Right, and right there and there, it just brilliantly sets up the aesthetic of the album, where it's like two artists, one verse each, with the exception of one track, which I'll get into, and maybe you might get a hook or two, right? But in this case, you don't get a hook, right? Because right after Mike completes his set, he spits his verse, right? And what I love about this track here is how or I should say in this whole album in general, is how each rapper kind of matches the other's energy and intensity when it comes to the flows and lyrics. So one man will just come out straight from the gate, just building this kind of hype and building up this kind of intensity, and the other rapper will just match that, and you just and just pretty much end the song off like that, right? So, and in Mike's case, he's pretty much delivering these cautionary bars about, his words being silenced by all these like power structures around him, right? Whether it's like the
Right.
police or the music industry, right? And Heezy matches that with a verse made up of similar rhyme schemes, right, based around the darkness that he sees in his environment on a regular basis. And one thing I really noticed about him on this track on this album here, that pretty much is his MO. It's just about, you know what, more or less just seeing through all the bullshit, all the darkness, and just kind of just understanding my place in all of this, just being aware of everything that's going on, right? Very Jizza Liquid Source esque, right? But I'll get to
Yeah.
Liquid Source later on, right? And oh, by the way, points for his blink and you miss it Halloween reference where he says, "I've seen the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes, Dr. Loomis." I was like, all right,
Mm.
okay, I see you.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, and last thing I'll say on this track here, I get the sense that both rappers are aware of the challenges that they face on this, journey of theirs, right? When it comes to his rap game, right? So yeah, great way to kick off this album here. Ricardo, any thoughts on proper viewing?
Yeah, solid opening as well. I agree. Just it is set up again. It's just a good intro track, just playing in, vibing in. It's like, okay, I'll dig in it one time. Is as I say, I had to do it to properly judge this is walking music. So put it on my phone one time and then see what happened. And like,
Oh, I
yeah,
did
good.
that too. I did that too.
Yeah,
But that was
one
on my
time.
third listen. I walk and I was just listening to it too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it make it work. Yeah,
Mhm.
the solid. Yeah, solid open. I agree. Yeah.
Right. So next track we have is Tree Grow, which features a hook
Mhm.
from J Smoke the Warning. If you remember him, he delivered the final verse off of Accepted, pretty much
Yeah,
shut shit down with that verse of his. I love that verse.
yeah,
Um,
Jelani. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's him. The opening and closing samples in particular, it sound lifted from some philosophy session. But I just love how it just
Right.
sets the tone for the instrumentals. Like it has this kind of slightly spacey psychedelic vibe, sorry, right?
Right.
Which is heightened by these blaring horns and these boom bap drums, right? Which I love, right? The samples themselves kind of allude to the notion that children, even though they may not be able to articulate it verbally, they formulate ideas and thoughts about the environment even without adults telling them what to do or think, right? Which
Right.
is a really great concept, right? Well, I love that, right?
Yeah, so
Um,
yeah, it's a actually big, surprisingly a shocking reference because it's the reference to Noam Chomsky out of all people. I don't know what book.
so that's her. Okay, I didn't even know
No,
who it
no,
was.
no. No. So okay, so it's I don't know who the voice is, but it's a audiobook of a book that I don't know. I'm trying to piece together where the book come from exactly, but I think it might be a Paul Bloom book or maybe a Steven Pinker book or something like that. But basically just referencing Noam Chomsky's work as in linguistics now. We call it poverty of
Oh,
stimulus, poverty of stimulus argument. I was like,
okay,
all right,
okay.
good. But the thing is, Micwise did not do to Micwise with the beats too, because sometimes he had Alan Watts, in one of his references in
Hmm.
thing. I think, okay, yeah. Look,
Yeah,
he is
even
wise.
even on weaving too.
Yeah.
There's like this piece, like two bits of like spoken like a lecture, like a philosophy lecture that they
Right.
hear in that song.
I think that's what it is. I think that's Alan Watts. Right. So I
Right,
think
right.
that's
The
what it was.
idea of death and what happens to you when you die, right?
Right.
That
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
yeah.
Alan Watts. That's Alan Watts. Yeah.
Mhm. Oh,
So
okay, okay.
yeah, Alan
Didn't
Watts
know.
is like one of these like popular culture philosophers who spread. I think people like the guys who do South Park. I think this reference him and all these kind of things. So, but yeah. So yeah. Look, he is wise. So we get some smart stuff. In
Yeah,
the
yeah,
future.
yeah.
Yeah.
You're
So
right. You
yeah.
hit the nail on the head with that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, both Heezy and Mike come through with these lyrically dense verses, though. Like to
Hmm.
the point, like I listened to it like a number of times, and I just there's still so much more that I need to pick up from it, right? Heezy's verse in particular, like just seemed like for me, just gets bleaker with every passing line that he drops, though, right?
Yeah.
Ricardo, I know you. I mean, I hope you picked up on these bars. Seeing that you're a basketball fan, though. But that's where Mike
Yes.
spits. I know I'm
Uh.
talking stern, and
Yes.
Lord
The
willing, I don't push away fans like it's Malice at the Palace.
Malasadi Palace. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, all
Yeah.
right, all
Yeah.
right. I love that, right? And well, of course, Jelani, comes through with a catchy and well sung hook on the he brings that to the table, right? And I
Hmm.
would say, like, thanks to the bounciness of the beat, it has this kind of slightly hyped up vibe to it now.
Yeah.
It is like one of the more energetic tracks on the album because
Yeah.
for the most part what we get here is like a mellow affair though, which is fine, right? But here's like where things just start to pick up and get a little hypey and hyped up and whatnot, right?
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, Mike and he's just spitting jewels all over this track though, but it
Hmm.
is really one that you have to sit down and listen to a number of times to pick up on everything that's being said though. But
Hmm.
yeah, Ricardo, your thoughts on Tree Grow?
Yeah. Yeah. That's my personal favorite track on the album.
Oh,
It's
okay,
just
okay.
yeah. Yeah. I
That's-
really like it. This is what I keep going back to. Great track. Mostly because I'll admit it's because of Jelani's hook. He has a fantastic hook in this. So is more. everything is coming together so well and flowing so well as a track. It starts with this really excellent use of the song reference in the book. Then it thematically ties into the rest of the track and flows so well. So yeah, this is a real hard track.
Yeah, and I even like how Jelani actually kind of represents in a sense in his hook, talking about,
Hmm.
imparting, wisdom to the
Knowledge, yeah.
youths and whatnot, the
Yeah.
knowledge, right? I love that, right? Up next,
And
we get,
he's coming
uh,
good with it. When you have that right before he first verse, he's like blind. It's like
yeah. Oh, that's him. Okay,
yeah,
I
yeah,
should
yeah,
have known. I should have
yeah,
known.
yeah.
All right, all right, all right. So up next we have Dialect, right? This is pretty much a cool down track after the
Yes.
energy that we got on
Hmm.
Trigger, right? The production has this luxurious kind of classy vibe to it. I mean, I have a friggin' harp sample on this beat,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
you know, and for me, this is one of the best beats on the album, bar none, right?
Yeah.
And I like that even though it's laid back and chilled out, Heezy and Mike aren't, right? They're not like rocking back chilling wasting time. They spitting facts to this, right? Flow wise, I mean they rapping and smoother than
Right.
the previous two tracks. So, but they're still spitting the asses off on this, right? Um, Heezy in particular, he flows through this beat so gracefully, boy. I don't know how he does it, but he just does it so well, boy. By the way, points for his WWE reference where he says, "Shunning devils, with my feet I never want to wrestle. Stone Cold think this is rap, sure let them stunners settle." I was like, okay,
Yeah.
all right, bro. All right.
Yeah.
And I love how well Mike pretty much sets up this idea that even though pretty much that they on this lyrical level that nobody could reach to, right? To the point that they have their own dialect. That's what he says before
Right.
he jumps into his verse, right? Um I love his opening bars where he says, never feared exclusion, because for years I've proven it's a fair conclusion, staying scared of humans, weird confusion. A square's intrusion in your circle, you'll beware illusions. That's being sold, mere solutions, staying scarce seclusion. Wow, almost fuck up that verse. So, wow, sorry about that. But yeah. And he just kicks off his verse so excellently, in my opinion, though. But yeah,
Yeah.
dope track though. But don't let the chill out beat fool you though. It can relax it and whatnot though. But yeah, they still spitting that real throughout the entirety of that track though.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Hmm.
any thoughts on that? Like,
Yeah. Good, as I say, good cool down from the previous track. It works quite well. It's a nice again. What I like about this album, it have an undulation to the whole thing. Like track, you go from one to the other, and it's very meticulously designed in terms of like what coming after the other in that flow. But yeah, this is
agreed.
come. It flows. It complements the previous and the next track so well in each other. Now it's like all right, even the whole track flows in that sense. So say yeah, again, agree to everything when you say it.
Right. All right. Up next, we have the first and current single from the album, which is Fabric, right?
Hmm?
And straight out the gate, we get that Esther Phillips, "That's All Right With Me" sample. And I
Right.
would just see this, like, ever since Q-Tip used it for, the Mobb Deep song, "Give Up the Goods, Just Step," it
Right.
literally, like, become a part of hip hop culture. Like, we just took that song and claimed it as ours, yeah. Like, this is a part of rap culture right now.
It
Just
sung
like
a
that.
little bit like it remember a little bit like a pogo track. If you know who Pogo is, he's like this Australian DJ. He kind of went off the deep end for culture war bullshit reasons, but
Oh,
he
wow.
used to do like these really cool like mashups of Disney. Just listen to it and tell me if it sounds similar. But he sound like like he used to do these mashup of old Disney audio samples and putting it into this cut together thing.
Okay,
Uh,
okay. That sounds
right.
dope, though. Yeah.
Yeah, let's look him up. He was real popular like around 10 years ago.
All right.
Uh, but yeah, so he it's song this track long song real similar, and then there's a reason I really like this track, and this is what I was describing earlier with your the two of them having shared conceits. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Right. Well, in this case, though, with this beat now, compared to "Give Up the Goods" now, we get a mellower take on this sample, right?
Yeah,
There's some light drums on the bass line here, so it's not like overpowering you, right? You can just kind of rock back, chill to it as well, right? But this is another favorite of mine here, and I mean, really is because the back and forth between
yeah,
between the rappers, right?
yeah. They do these
Um,
styles P, they do these styles P Jadakiss
and
thing.
Gina Kiss thing, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, where
yeah,
they're just going back and forth, right?
yeah.
And I just love how they just keep complementing each other's rhyme schemes throughout
Mm,
like one extended verse that we get here, right? And even share the hook together, which is really fantastic, right?
yeah,
I like that they try to one up each other
yeah,
without one upping each other basically. Says, all right, you come with that heat, and I gotta come with more heat. Okay, you bringing more heat. Okay, I gotta bring more heat as well too.
yeah.
I just keep going, right? And if it's one track that really like encapsulates their chemistry on this whole record, it's this, right? By the way, Added this quote, this lines, right? Hines invincibly will strive to victory. We holding writers hostage. That's that guy in misery. I see you. I see you.
Yeah,
I see
it's a
you.
good
I see
reference.
you. Right. I see you. But yeah, perfect choice for a single. And yeah, I would say this is my second favorite song on the album. Right.
Right.
I'll get to
This
the
is my
first
this
in a
is
bit.
my
But
this
yeah,
is my
your
this is my
thoughts.
third favorite.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, your thoughts on Fabric.
Yeah. This is the track that really why Micwise and Heezy Hines come together so well. They have such great chemistry on rhyming schemes. They bounce off each other so well. Again, the styles feature like this thing, just bouncing off, bouncing off, bouncing off, bouncing off. And yeah, as I say, cut from the same cloth, right? The track is a really good thematic conceit of the two of them. And yeah, it really works. It really works. This is another track I keep coming back to.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Definitely. Right. So what's the first? What's my favorite track on this record, by? Track five, Rhythms.
Right. Right. Nice. Nice.
So here's the thing, right? Like the first time I heard it, I was like, all right, this different. This different, right? But the more I gave it, boy, the more I was like, yeah, this is like my favorite track here, right? So it kicks off with a sample from a funk band called Mandrill, right? Called Universal Rhythms. I had to do some digging up on like define this, right? So the thing with the child accent, who are you and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
That is literally from it's basically like this sort of weird spoken word piece that's in the album, but it sounds cool. Like when you like if you look it up and listen to it, it's really cool. It came out in the early 70s, right? So yeah, it's within that kind of post psychedelic era, right? But whatever, right? Um, but the beat itself is just as psychedelic as the original song was, but way more haunting, by right. The best way I could describe it is like you're just trying to stay calm and relax when everything around you just getting dark and cold and frightening, dread. You know what I mean? Like I would say both Heezy and Mike just get into liquid swords mode because they just spitting like these bleak perspectives on life and trying to make money on a day-to-day basis, dealing with demons, literally, figuratively, and all this kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, Heezy kicks off his verse strongly though. I would say he comes through with some of the best bars I heard on this album, right? So let's quote it here, right? Where he kicks off where he says, "You ever seen a corpse walk and talk, still deceased, still a preach how they tried to survive in the iller streets. Killer speech from Gangsta, Chaos Soliloquy, if you remember Soliloquy of
Mhm.
Chaos from Gangsta, classic
Yep.
track. This heavy mental sound from then till now, that's Killer Priest. If you know Killer Priest, or at least if you heard the song from Ghost Dog, the Way the Samurai, that's called From Then Till Now, which
Right.
is
Right.
from the album Heavy Mental. It's like, yeah, that's what he's talking about, right? But the reason why I love this song so much, boy, is Mike's verse, boy.
Yep.
I'll say this one time. This right here is a contender for verse of the year, though.
Mhm.
On God, this is a contender for verse of the year, Dread, right? Like Mike must have. This is why my assumption, right? He probably like look at last year's contenders, right, and say, all right, well, G Cole verse on Tana Talk 4 was on track 1, and Jay Z's verse on God Did was on track 2, and
Mhm.
Master's verse on It Was Dry was the last track. So here was I gotta put my verse of the year right in the middle of the album, right in the middle, right? And you just have no choice but to listen to the rest of the album from that point, right? But I'm not even gonna quote anything from this, right? But pretty much he just delivers a masterclass at just rhyme schemes with just stacking rhyme on top of each other, right? But what he does so well though is just he just keeps building tension as that beat just keeps looping, right? And I would say the ending, just that last line alone, boy, was one of the best punchlines I've heard in a song all year. Dre. Like when I hear that, I was like, all right, this is something right here. This is something that I will keep going back to. And every time I go back to this song, every time I listen to that verse, boy, I just amazed at what Mike was able to pull off here, boy. So yeah, seeing it right off the bat here one time, this track has a verse of the year contender on it. One, right off the gate here. So I mean, I recommend it to listen to the whole album, right? But in particular, folks, you need to listen to Rhythms. Yeah, the Rhythms for me is the best track on that
Mhm.
album, just because of just that sheer energy and intensity that both artists, not just Mike, but just both artists brought to the table here, man. I love that beat, by the way. I love that beat. It's just so cold and dark and just, whew, I love it, right? But yeah, Ricardo, I know, well, this may not be your top, I know this is not your top favorite, right? But yeah, any thoughts on Rhythms?
Yeah. Read this track of it. In terms of the dark conceits of it, there's another track that really works a lot better than this. But yeah, this is still real good. Real hard because well, we'll get to that. Yeah.
Yeah, we will, right? So up next we have Friendly Skies. Here we get a surprisingly drumless instrumental, driven by these female vocal chops and this driving bass line, right? And it this pretty much gives the whole track the sense of urgency, right? Especially in the vocals. You just hear the sense like, all right, something bad or big is gonna happen, and you need to like prepare yourself for that, right? On his verse, Mike addresses the exploitation of artists by the music industry, and how that could result in mental illness, substance abuse, diluting one's sound and identity, and just a lot of stuff that he covers, right? Point where he says this content could have me paying hefty fines. Just know they can't clone me because with the pen he wise, get it, Pennywise,
Mm-hmm.
ha 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 ha, right?
Yeah.
I love that, right? Heezy calls out haters and false friends, or should I say fake friends, right?
Yeah.
For trying to bring him down and distract him from his journey as a rapper. And yeah, I mean, while this is not my top favorite track on this though, I just love how like the title in particular is just so misleading. Cause yeah, it's anything but friendly on this though. It's dark, it's bleak, it's cool. I just love how it complements the previous track, right? Rhythms, right? As I said before, again, it's just how the tracks just kind of complement each other, just how they flow as well, right? So just from rhythms all the way down to Friendly Skies. I mean, it just flows so well, man. I love that, right? And this after this quote, this line here from Friendly Skies, way I could have summarized your fall in the winter. I mean,
Yeah. Uh,
I mean, come on, man, come on, right? Come on, right? But yeah, your thoughts on Friendly Skies?
yeah. Great track as well. It hold it up. Again, the undulation of the album really flows particularly well. Yeah, I enjoy this one as well.
All right. And up next we have True Story, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I would say that the gloominess of the previous two tracks, dissipates, right? Thanks to how bright and triumphant this track feels here, boy. The
Mm-hmm.
vocal sample sounds gorgeous. The instrumental has this soulful kind of just blaze kind of vibe to it. Like the only thing missing is a just blaze, being watermarked, you know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, it just I mean, how can I forget the hook though? It just sounds is actually the most optimistic that you hear on this album here, right? And pretty much it's just both rappers assuring that they're gonna achieve their goals no matter how long it takes, right? Um, both Heezy and Mike spit flames on this track though, but I have to shout out Heezy boy, cause Heezy's flow on this boy, similar to Dialect boy, it's just so smooth boy. It's just the way how he just maneuvers throughout this beat though is amazing. It's a true highlight on this album, right? But yeah, I mean, as you could tell, I love this track though. It's emotionally driven, it's motivational, it's like that kind of light in the darkness kind of vibe though,
Yeah.
and you could tell that these verses came from the heart, man. You know what I mean? Absolutely love this track. Any thoughts on True Story?
Yeah. Right. So this is my second favorite track on the album. Uh,
All right,
yeah.
nice.
Float this again so well. Again, the hook, royal hard. Again, they do the kind of not as much as before, but they still do the styles. Jada Kiss thing where they bounce off each other. It really flows really well in this. Yeah, this one just real hard. Again, this is another track I keep coming back to. Mostly because of the
Yeah,
hook. That hook just hard, dude.
I know, boy. And
Yeah.
shout out to St. James though. He's the one who produced this, right? And
Okay. I didn't know that.
yeah,
Wow, nice
and
one.
I'm gonna talk about him in the end though, because
Yeah,
yeah, this man is certainly a name to look out to
no, yeah,
look out to when it comes to just emotionally driven beats, but like that, like
yeah,
whew, wow, right?
yeah,
So speaking of emotionally driven, right? So this is like the best way I could describe the last leg of the album, right? So the last three tracks here that I'll get into, right? Because yeah, I mean, to much of my surprise, sorry, we get to hear Mike and Heezy at the most vulnerable, right? And it kicks off with Pray, right, which treats us as calm but rather disenchanted beat. It's very soulful as well, too, right? You get this potent hook from Mike, you know what I mean, as he raps about, his daily struggles with the darkness of the world, even though he looks to God for protection, right? Um, as expected, Heezy approaches this from a metaphysical perspective, and he comes through with some really like superbly written, I must say, rhyme schemes in the process, right? Mike, however, raps about just the stresses of pretty much proving to the world how valuable his art is, right, as a rapper,
yeah.
right, and not just from a financial standpoint. Even though, yeah, you want to get paid in the end of the day, right? So this gonna cover the last two tracks, and then you could come through with that, right? Up next we have DM2, right, and
Right.
boy, we get this genuinely
This,
beautiful.
Yeah, this up there.
Um,
This is the track I really like.
yeah, boy, yeah, boy. Like the moment I hear this, right, I like,
So I think
wow,
we, I think Mike mentioned this on social media at some point. So
okay, okay,
this is the track he was talking about. He's mentioned something about a track that talk about, well, basically his anxiety and whatever it is, the
right,
really, really dark places he went to. I swear I read this on some, either on Twitter or on Facebook, one of them. He didn't mention it. I was like, okay, I know what to look out for. And yeah, I think
okay,
this is it. And it works like a kind of a nice, like, kind of spiritual sequel to Tropical Depression, right?
yes, it does. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, you're
yeah.
right, actually. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, boy. This beat, boy. Wow. And it's really because of the male vocal chops that they hear, though. It's just how it just moves, how it just glides through this beat, right? But as I said, Mike, right? He delivers some of the most introspective bars I've ever heard from him. He goes, well, he delves into his past, right? And his past, sorry, and he's talking about a path that he could have chosen, right? Had he stuck around with a friend of his whose aggressive attitude pretty much led to him being in prison, right? Both
Right.
literal and figuratively, right? But he doesn't stop there, right? He does a reaffirmation. He's talking about why he chose rap as his like emotional outlet, right? But
Right.
why, up to now, he doesn't throw in the towel. He doesn't like succumb to the world's pressures and lashes out, at the world aggressively like his friend did, right? But yeah, I mean, he is, he talks about, dealing with anxiety, and all that stuff. Just physically, just feeling down and out, right? But
Yeah.
having to pick himself up and keep moving, right? Is that really, really powerful moment on the album, right?
He has a
He see,
line. He has a line where is this the track where the line where he takes a Jay Z classic Jay Z line but flips it in a really cool
yeah,
way.
I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman.
Right.
Um, something along the line. Well,
Company,
some
the misery of the company you keep.
Yeah,
The
right.
company.
Yeah,
Yeah.
misery in the company you keep. Right, right, right.
Yeah.
Sorry if we butchered the line, right? Sorry about that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. But basically, it's
Yeah,
like business, but the company, the type of company you keep is the opposite. But to do with misery, as in the bad space here, and I was like, oh, that's like really clever though.
it is. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Heezy, however, comes through with this grim and rather complex portrait now of like street life, right? And that's another theme that shows up in his verses, right? Street life, just the ups and downs of mostly downs though of like hustling and dealing and just that life, right? So he's just talking about how easy friends could become foes and how easy it is to resort to violence and just kind of painting this portrait of just how easy it is to just lose your way in that lifestyle, right? But how it kind of becomes a necessity, right? Because yeah, you kind of have to do it, right? And it's just true of like just a lot of things in life, right? So basically, that what he brings up here, right? Also, I'll say his Dexter reference at in his last bar. That was nice. That was
Yeah.
nice. I like
Hmm.
that, right? But yeah, great track, great album, Wind Down. And now we get to the last track, right? Soulless, which is also produced by St. James, right? I gotta lie to you, something about that beat, boy. It's not so much the pianos, right? But it's the strings and horns that show up by something about that, by when I hear it, by I just get real emotional though. Like I'm not gonna front. Like if I just sit down and concentrate on that beat alone, boy, yeah, I would just like just start tearing up and whatnot. It's just so beautiful though, but at the same time it's so bittersweet at the same time. That's the
Yeah.
best way I could describe it. It's a very bittersweet um beat and a very and just overall a bittersweet way to end the album off, right? But it just stays with you long after the album ends, so swear to God, right? But yeah, throughout his verse though, Mike, just comes through with a sense of determination and courage. Like, he's going to go back out to the world. He's going to go on. He's going to return to this path to greatness, right? But yeah, he's going to say that he will admit, sorry, that, he's been dealt a lot of blows, in and out of his career, though, but, he's just determined to keep going, right? And, for all we know, his destination could be closer than yeah, and he and all expect, right? Um, I would say this much, right? He ends his verse with a bar that makes three references to glasses. When you hear it, you'll know
Hmm.
it and you'll fuck with it. But that's all I'll say without spoiling it, right? But it's Heezy's verse though that really brings emotion out of this track, right? So
Hmm.
while I don't know much about that, while I can't tell if any of this is factual or how much of this is factual, right? And that's just because I don't know anything about his personal life, right? But pretty much Heezy just fleshes out his relationship with his father or father figure, right, in his life,
Yeah.
right? The life lessons that his dad imparted onto him. It was just overall survival, not just on the streets, and how he was just able to, share some words of wisdom to him, right? But it's the last four bars though, and it just come through with this gut punch, but like I won't lie, When you really pick up on it though, that's when I get a little man tear though. You know what I mean? Especially how he ends that whole verse though is like, whew, wow, right? So he pretty much says that their addictions pretty much separated them, right? And how they could have looked, after each other through their own forms of therapy, right? Like
Yeah,
it could have brought them closer, but instead it just kind of separated them, right? And it just ends the album on a solemn note though, but like in the context of the album itself, you could understand that this whole idea of doing right by yourself and by your loved ones, right? This is pretty much the driving force that keeps Heezy on his path, right? So
yes.
yeah, I mean these three tracks though is just like it's just a really emotional way to just end this record though. I did not expect that they would have go this deep. I didn't expect that they would have go this emotional though. But I had to mention all three, boy, because yeah, these three complement each other, especially the way how they flow and just how that last track, boy, just ends on that gut punch, but wow, right? But yeah, Ricardo, your thoughts on Prey, DM2, and Solus?
Yeah. They're real powerful tracks. I didn't expect the material to get as deep and as dark as it did now. Like, oh shit, we go in here, though. All right, wood. Yeah, it real powerful. I think I'll admit, I don't go back to it because it is very depressing, but it is important to listen to nonetheless. Uh, but yeah,
True, true. Mhm.
yeah, really, really good stuff to be honest. Especially that DM2 track, great stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Right. So final thoughts. Love this record, right?
Yes.
But in particular, I just love this really for me, right? Is the meticulous craft, right? You hit the nail on the head with that term, right? Meticulous, right? Behind the lyrics and the verses, right? I mean, by now you could expect that from a Micwise album, right? But I just like that he was just able to hook up with another rapper who approaches his bars the same way, right? This is one where some bars will fly over your head, but for me, right? This record is really not just for those who kind of just love the verses to be jam packed with punchlines and this, that, and the two, right? But ones that really have a lot of depth and thought and meaning behind them, right? Um, Heezy truly shines on this record, though, right? And he really proves that he could go toe to toe with Mike Wise, right? I just love how they just challenge themselves to just spit the best verses possible on each and every track, right? That's why, in particular, when Mike, is promoting his album on social media, you see verses of the year, and I would say, yeah, there's tons of verses that you could pick from, right, on this record from both artists, and you could say, yeah, verse of the year, verse of the year, verse of the year, verse of the year, right here, right? But for me, my verse of the year pick for me is on rhythms, right? You could have your own, what I mean? It's to each his own, right? But my own is from rhythms, right? I just love what Mike did on that, right? And I would say just the album itself is just a great showcase of his talent. I do hope to hear more from this guy in the near future because I
Yeah.
would say, yeah, this man killed it on this record, right? Mike, of course, he just continues to prove why he's destined to be one of hip hop's greatest lyricists, regardless of country and whatnot. And this how he's just willing to try new things in his discography, right? So I mean, just last year he worked with a producer. This year he worked solely with a rapper who isn't even from Trinidad, right? So I just love that he's just taking these calculated moves in terms of just building his discography. He's never sticking to the same approach. It's like, all right, I gotta try something bit new, right? So let's throw this idea out here, Mike, if you're listening. About a concept album. I love me a concept album. I love me an album that tells a story from top to bottom. You know what I mean? We could get one of those. So yeah, looking forward to that one day, right? Um, and for the most part, I mean, Heez Wise is a mellow affair, right? So don't go into this one expecting bangers like what we got on Dirty Pages, right? It's more thoughtful, it's more insightful, and
Yeah.
it's really like it fits Heezy as well too, right? Especially with from what I've heard from him prior to this record dropping, right? This sort of more meditative, more heady, more again, just introspective and insightful look at life and whatnot, right? And your career and whatnot, right? And it is really one that you just have to sit down and you're not just marveling at the acrobatic wordplay, but you really have to listen to what they're saying, right? Okay, yeah, they are saying a lot on this record, right? So I talk long enough. Rating wise, I'm gonna give this a like 4.5 out of 5. Easily one of the year's best rap albums. I can't wait to hear the next Mike Wise album. I do hope to hear more from Heezy in the near future. And last but not least, I do hope that this is not the last that we hear from Heez Wise, but yeah, as a duo boy, they definitely want to listen to, man. I mean, they ain't no minor movers, as Mike says on the opening track, right? So yeah, easily one of the year's best albums. But yeah, Ricardo, your final thoughts on it.
Yeah, overall fantastic album in my opinion as well. It very little of it is bad or slow. It feels trimmed to the bone. Everything serves its purpose. Nothing, no fat at all, and it works perfectly. Like in terms of what it was supposed to do and what its intentions are, very clear. And almost all of it works to be honest. My thought was great. Yeah, written 8 out of 10, but closer to a 9. Great.
Nice, nice, nice. Yeah, man. So, folks, Heez Wise, is available on major streaming platforms. You can actually listen to the record right now on YouTube right now. The full
Okay.
album is up there as well. I
I,
mean,
I was
yeah, I
listening to
mean,
it on I was listening to it on thing when it
Spotify.
came out. Spotify, and then that is gate and with you're right, your link pop it on my phone.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's on YouTube, it's on Spotify, it's on Deezer right now. Yeah, we talk long enough. Heez Wise is a real deal. Definitely check this out.